Hello everybody, and welcome to part 2 of creating a bank account using subclasses and superclasses. Now, we left off creating a bank account structure here. This is actually, we're creating a bank account with a savings account, a checking account, and a checking account with fees. And we've already created the excuse me, we've already created the bank account and the savings account classes. And now all we need to do is add the checking account and checking account with fees classes and test them. So I'm just going to add a new class to our default package, and this is just actually going to be called the checking account. Sorry about that. That was probably really loud on the microphone. Sorry. So this was created by Brandonio Productions. So the checking account class, this is going to be just like the savings account and actually be a bank account. So it is a type of a bank account. And just like the savings account class, we need to, first of all, create variables that only the checking account has. Now, a checking account, let's see, what does it... Oh, a checking account uses checks. So we're actually going to create a private integer called remaining checks. And we're going to... Yes. So, here's something interesting. Well, not really. Never mind. So what we're going to do is create a constructor for the checking account. So every time we say there's a new checking account, this is going to be called. And the first thing we need to do is alter the owner and the balance of the checking account. And as with savings account, this can be altered by calling super, which just calls the default constructor of our superclass bank account. Now, there's one more thing we need to do with this, since we've got a editable variable. We need to set the remaining checks equal to a default value of, let's just say, 100. So here we could just say remaining checks equals 100. So not only will this constructor call the constructor of bank account, but it will also edit the remaining check amount. Now we're also going to create a new constructor that takes in an owner, a initial balance, and a remaining checks variable. Now what we're going to do with this is the same thing that we did with savings account. Now, I'm just going to demonstrate something for you really fast. So let's just say we want to set the remaining checks first. So we're going to say this dot remaining checks equals remaining checks. Now, this is all fine and dandy. This is actually how you would do it. However, now the next thing I want to do is call the constructor of bank account. So this can be done with super. And we're going to say owner and initial balance, because that is what it takes in. However, Java is throwing us an error here. And that is because if you're calling a super constructor, that actually must be done on the first line of your constructor that you are actually constructing. So as you can see, the error has disappeared. So whenever you're creating a constructor and it's going to have super in it, the super needs to be on the first line, otherwise it does not operate properly. It actually throws you what is called a compile time error. Alright, so moving on. Now, what we're going to want to do is we're actually going to create a new method that only belongs to checking account, and we're going to call it useCheck. So this is going to be public void useCheck. So somebody uses a check, and yeah, so all we want to do is subtract the amount of remaining checks. So remaining checks minus equals 1. Oh, actually, you could just say remaining checks minus minus, which automatically subtracts the remaining checks by 1. Now, I actually spelled remaining checks wrong. My bad. And now we want to actually public void getCheck. So this will, let's say you found a random check on the side of the street, and it just happened to have your bank account number and routing number and account number on it. So we can add this to the amount of remaining checks with remaining checks plus plus. Whoops. So now we have a basic checking account class constructed. We've got the constructors we need, its own variable, and its own little methods. So now we're going to go on to the hard part here, the checking account with fees. So I'm just going to create another new class, and this is going to be called checking account fees. Now, the first thing we're going to do is comment it out saying it was created by Brandonio Productions. Now the first thing we need to do is decide what is this class's superclass. Now here, let me get my pencil tool, red here we've got a checking account with fees, and as you can see, its direct superclass is called checking account. However, that is a subclass of bank account, so its indirect superclass would be bank account. But what we actually want to do is we actually want to set its superclass to checking account. And this will actually give checking account all the methods and variables and stuff that checking account has, and it will also give us the methods and variables that bank account has, since checking account's superclass is bank account. So we do not want to link it to bank account whatsoever. We just want to erase that out of our minds. Bank account does not exist. We want to link it to checking account and checking account only. So we're going to go ahead and do that by typing extends checking account. So this means that this class now has a balance, an owner, deposit and withdraw methods, and the get and use check methods, and not to mention the remaining checks variable. So the first thing we want to do is now create a new private double, or a new private final double called fees, and the fees are always going to be $20, let's just say. For anything you do in this checking account with fees, it's going to charge you $20. So now what we want to do is actually create a constructor. So we're going to say public checking account fees, and we do not need to alter this fees variable since it is final, so we're just going to call super, which will in turn give us 100 checks. It will call this constructor right here, which will give us 100 checks, which in turn also calls the super constructor of bank account, which will set the owner to Bob Billiton and the balance to 0. Now we can also create a checking account fees constructor, which takes in an owner, a initial balance, and a initial check count. So now all we want to do with this constructor is call the super constructor, and the super constructor, as said in this pop-up, which can be popped up with control and space if you press those together. We see that we need a owner, a initial balance, and then a remaining checks variable. So we're just going to send those in. We've got owner, initial balance, and then initial check count. So we've got all the variables accounted for. And I probably spelled something wrong somewhere. I forgot an I in this one. Initial check count. Okay, so now what we want to do is create one method in the checking account fees that only applies to checking account with fees. And this is deduct fees. So we're going to say public void deduct fees. And this method is simply going to take the balance and withdraw $20 from it. So we could say this dot withdraw, and the amount is going to be fees. So we're withdrawing fees, which is $20, from this bank account every time we call deduct fees, which is actually withdraw, which is a method of the bank account class. So now we've got our whole hierarchy set up. Whoa, this is a mess. We've got our whole hierarchy set up here. Just get rid of this stuff. And it's all set up and good and working properly. So now what we're going to do is actually create a tester class to make sure everything works. So I'm just going to create a new class and call it tester. Now, one nice thing about Eclipse is you can actually say, bam, public static void main. This is going to be something that actually runs something, and it will put in the main method here. I'm going to comment it out and tell everybody it was created by Brandonier Productions. And so now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a couple things. I'm just going to do a series of tests. So the first thing I'm going to do is say bank account. Well, actually, to make things easier, I'm going to create a new method, public static void, and I'm just going to call it L, because that's easy. And it's going to take in a string s, and it's going to system.out.println s. This way, whenever we need to print something to the console, we could just call L instead of system.out.println. It's just a simple method tweak that makes things easier. So now what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to create a new bank account, and we're going to call it BA, capital B, no, just BA, lowercase, equal to new bank account. So what this line does is it creates a new bank account, as you've seen in previous tutorials, and it runs the constructors. So we're going to L BA dot get owner, and then L BA dot get balance. Now, what this should do is it should print out Bob Billiton, and then it should print out a balance of 0. So let's go ahead and check it out. Okay, hold on. It says there's an error. However, I'm not necessarily sure. Oh, yes. Okay. Now, this is actually printing out a... See, this method takes in a string, and getBalance returns a double. So we're just going to actually return this, or change this to object s. In this case, it could take in strings, doubles, integers, everything, because actually everything is a subclass of object. So, as you can see, it quickly printed out Bob Billiton and then $0, which is good. So that means our default constructor is working. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to create a new owner. I'm just going to call it Brandon, and then an initial balance of $25. So just to test it out, it's going to print out Brandon and $25. Good job. Our program works. So now what we're going to want to do is actually, we're going to do some separation here. We're going to print out a nice line. So now we know we're working with a savings account. So we're going to say savings account SA equals new savings account. And then we're going to pass in some constructors here. So we've got the owner. This owner is going to be Bob, just plain Bob. And we've got the initial balance, which in this account is going to be $125, because we like to save. So now what we want to do with the savings account is we're actually going to call sa.deposit. Now, as you can see, we can actually call the deposit method from this external class, even though it's not in savings account. That's simply because it extends bank account, and the deposit method is in bank account. So we're just going to deposit $20 into the account. Then we are going to get some interest on this baby, because let's just say it's been a year. And then we're going to print out the current balance of our savings account. So let's just go ahead and run this. And as you can see, we've got Brandon, 25. That was from our previous testing. And then we printed out 152.25. So what we did, let's open up the calculator to make sure our program calculated everything correctly. We inserted $125 into our savings account. And then we added $20 into our savings account. So we've got $145. And then we added interest. So as you remember, our interest rate was 0.05. So we added $7.25. So that was $145 plus $7.25, which indeed is $152.25. So these calculations work out perfectly. So let's go ahead and create a new separation here. And we're going to mess with the checking account class. So we're going to say checking account CA equals new checking account. And we're just going to say the owner here is Ryan. The initial amount is $250. And let's just say we start out with 250 checks. So now what we want to do with this is we're going to, let's say we write a check to Walmart, and we purchase, I don't know, something that is worth $25. So what we want to do is we're going to withdraw $25 from our account because we just spent it, and then we used a check to buy it. So we're going to CA dot, what was the method called? Use check. So we used one check in that transaction. And then what we want to do is we're just going to print out the remaining balance. Oops. So L CA dot get balance. And we're just going to go ahead and run this. And as you can see here, we've created a new thing, $225. So we started with an initial balance of $25, subtracted 25, and now we have a balance of 225. So now we're just going to create one last separator here to check out the checking account with fees. Now, one thing that I did not inform you guys about is what you can actually do is use this thing called polymorphism, which is actually what this whole tutorial series is about, to your advantage. So what you can do, now this is actually rather confusing, and really, although it's considered somewhat good style to do this, and a lot of people actually do this, I don't recommend it because it just makes things way too confusing. And I really don't understand how it works. But what we're going to do is we're going to create a new bank account, and this is going to be called CAF. Or CAF all in lowercase. But we're going to make this a new checking account fees. And we're actually just going to observe the behavior of this right here. So if we type CAF dot, we see that we can see the methods deposit, get balance, and get owner. But we do not see, and withdraw. But we do not see the public methods of deduct fees, which are part of the checking account fees class. So what this actually does is it creates a new object that's a bank account, so it can only see the methods of the bank account class. However, it acts as a checking account fees. So if we have a parameter, so for example, if we create a method public void lol, and it takes in a checking account fees as a parameter, we can actually just say lol and then send in a CAF. Wait, maybe we can't. Well, this is actually interesting. See, I'm learning stuff too. But when we create this lol and then take in a checking account fees, although this is a checking account fees, it is still a bank account, so we cannot take that in. However, if we change this to bank account, it will take in CAF, no problem. I believe. Let's refresh. Maybe it can't. Okay, so if we set this to a new bank account, oh, duh. My bad. This is a capital L. That's why nothing was working. So, as you can see here, we're actually going to change this to a static method to reduce errors. Okay, sorry about that whole... That was it. Okay, so what we can actually do here is, yeah, it still doesn't take it. So we can actually, this method takes in a checking account fees, and yes, but this is a bank account, so it will not take this in. However, what we can do is we can actually cast CAF as a bank or a checking account fees, and CAF. This needs to be over here. This needs to be right here. There we go. So now we can cast CAF, which is a bank account, and we're essentially just changing it into the checking account fees class. So now lol can take in checking account fees. However, I don't like doing that because, as you can see, it's very confusing. So I just will stick with calling this a checking account fees, and this is a CAF equal to new checking account fees, and we're going to set the owner equal to Dylan, the initial balance of 500, checks as 20. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to say CAF. So say you went to the Walmart again, and you bought something that costed $25. And then this mean bank account charges you a fee for every time you use a check. So we're going to CAF.deduct fees. And then we're going to CAF.useOneCheck. And then we're going to print out the CAF.getBalance. So as we know, the fees are $20 as we programmed, so it's going to withdraw a total of $45 from our total of 500. So it should print out 455, I believe. If my math's right. Yep, 455. So everything is working properly. Now, one last thing I want to add while I'm on the topic of polymorphism is the great thing about actually doing this is in this lol method here, we say we need to do something with a bank account. We want to get the name of a bank account, and this will print out or it'll print out the owner of every bank account, or a bank account class. Now, since this takes in a bank account, and every single one of these classes that we just created has a superclass of bank account, we can actually use this method and use it on checking account fees, savings account, and bank account all at once. Well, like, without having to change the parameter type. So let's go ahead and try that. We can type in lol. We've got the standard bank account, lol with the savings account, lol with the checkings account, and then lol with the checkings account with fees. And so it should print out the owners of all of these, which it does: Brandon, Bob, Ryan, and Dylan. So that is the great thing about polymorphism and using superclasses and subclasses. So sorry for this tutorial series taking so long to put out and actually to explain everything. It's just this is such a complicated topic, and even my textbook doesn't explain it so well. It took me a while to actually get what was going on. But this is huge if you are doing Java, because Java or C are both object-oriented programming languages. So thanks for watching this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys in future tutorials. Please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.